أعزائي المشاهدين، مرحب بكم في حلقة جديدة من برنامج نبض الكنيسة. يشرفنا في حلقة اليوم وجود قداسة بطريرك أثيوبيا أبونا باولص الأول معنا في البرنامج. It's a great honor to receive your holiness on this program نبض الكنيسة, the official voice of the Coptic Orthodox Church. This is the third visit of your holiness to Egypt and Pope Shenouda III. We know it's a historical visit. Let us know something about your holiness' early life and your studies.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, one God. Amen. This is the third visit after I become Patriarch. But this is not a new land, a new people to me. Our historical relations has been since the 4th century, which amounts to be about 16 and 1700 years. We have the same dogma, the same tradition, the same history, the same church fathers, and we are only but families. And so I am not regarding myself here as a new stranger into a new strange land, but a man who is visiting his family, his brothers and sisters.
As we always say, they are both the two sister churches.
Yes, we are the two. We were mother and daughter, but now, according to God's will, we are sister churches.
Let me ask Your Holiness a question about the monastery which Your Holiness joined and when.
I was born in the northern part of Ethiopia. In the northern part of Ethiopia, there are 9 monasteries.
9 monasteries.
9 monasteries, which are the very beginning of the first monasteries. The first one being the monastery of Devradamo, and the second one being the monastery of Abbagarima. I grew up and raised in the monastery of Abbagarima, learning according to the monastic life and regulations. At the time where I joined the monastic life for learning, I was 5 years old. My father, who was a dedicated married priest, who put me in the monastery in order to get a formal education.
It means Your Holiness joined the monastery at an early age.
I was in the monastery since 5 years old for the purpose to learn, and I grew up there. And then finally, when the time comes, I was still in the monastery. I was very much familiar with the life, with the rules and regulations of the monastic life. My father, who was responsible to put me there, like everybody else, passed away, and I was on my own in the monastery. I had to make a choice. And so I made a choice to be a member of the monastic life. Ever since, I have lived a monastic life.
Since then, you have dedicated yourself to this kind of life. That's nice. It is said that Your Holiness received education through Coptic teachers. Is it true?
When I was in the school, after having come out from the monastery, in order to join a modern school, I was enrolled in a seminary or in a spiritual college in Addis Ababa, where it is still very active, Holy Trinity Theological College. As that, while I was in there, the teachers who were teaching in the monastery, in the theological college, many of them were Egyptians because from the sister churches, and some of them were Indians from the Indian Syrian Orthodox Church, and some of them were from the Armenian Orthodox Church. So these scholars who have come from the sister or the family churches were the ones who were teaching the young people in this theological seminary. It happens, one of them, when I was there, who was there as a teacher, or even a dean of the theological seminary, Dr. Mr. Antoine, who is here now, has been my teacher.
Your Holiness still remember him?
Well, in our tradition, someone who taught you one word of God is like your natural father. But if he taught you more than one, he is to be regarded higher than the spiritual father, the natural father. And so I do always remember him because he is one of the people who have given me the education that I have now.
Your Holiness speak English fluently. What other foreign languages do Your Holiness speak?
I don't know if I speak fluent English. It is you who can say that because you are the one who is listening to me. Otherwise, I do know local languages, my own language, about 3 or 4 of them, but they are all Ethiopian languages. I understand a little bit of French and German, and I try to read Hebrew and Greek.
That's good. Let me ask Your Holiness, when were Your Holiness enthroned as the Ethiopian Patriarch?
Almost 19 years old, or ago, 18, 19 years ago.
إلى أن تسلم الأمر الراس ماكونن واللي بقى بعد كده هايلي سلاسي، فطلبوا من جديد إرسال مدرسين.
أيوه.
هو بقى طلب
في عهد الرئيس هايلي سلاسي
الراس ماكونن الأول قبل ما يبقى إمبراطور. طلب بقى في مرة أخيرة من وزارة التعليم نفسها، فبعتوا له بعثة من 12 شخصيات ممتازة جدا. كان منهم الدكتور مراد كامل، عالم اللغات الشرقية.
تمام.
وأسند إليه مستشار وزارة التربية. ده حصل بعد التحرير.
تمام.
سنة 42.
سنة 42.
سنة 42.
تمام.
راحوا قضوا 2 سنين ودرسوا هناك، وفضل منهم 2 ما رجعوش مصر، واحد منهم اسمه ويليام نجيب، ده أسس التعليم التجاري في إثيوبيا.
التعليم التجاري
تجاري. بدأوا بمدرسة صغيرة، لما وصل إلى مدرسة ضخمة تجارة عليا بمساعدة الإمبراطور. وشيء يذكر له كمان إنه قدر يدخل الآلة الكاتبة باللغة الأمهرية. ودي كانت مشكلة كبيرة، لأن اللغة الأمهرية مكونة من 232 حرف. شوف بقى عشان يدخلوا دول في آلة كاتبة. وشخص تاني اهتم بإدخال التربية الرياضية، التربية البدنية، اسمه ميشيل واصف. ده قعد برضه وواصل مهمته، وهو اللي فتح أول فرع للشبان المسيحيين في أديس أبابا، وما زال قائم، وبني له مبنى ضخم ورا الكنيسة سلاسي وكلية اللاهوت.
Let us move on to another point. What does His Holiness Pope Shenouda and the See of St. Mark represent, Your Holiness?
I think I have mentioned this in general at the very opening of my report. Ethiopia and the Coptic Orthodox Church has been together since the 4th century. To be precise, since 330 or 29 years ago. And they have been families. They have been the same, following the same doctrine, following the same tradition, following the same holy fathers. And so he is not someone who represents for me. He is my brother. We are of the same family.
I wonder if Your Holiness could tell us something about Your Holiness memories with Pope Shenouda.
Pope Shenouda, when I was in exile in the United States, that's where we, for the first time, personally met. I was someone who was in exile. He was still the Pope and the Patriarch of the Coptic Orthodox Church. So at that time he paid a good attention towards me, regarded me as if I was his son, even though I was in exile. When someone is kicked out from his own country and is in exile, you are no more to worry about him, according to the world's view, not according to spiritual life. But Pope Shenouda paid a full attention to me. Whenever he visited the United States, to his own spiritual children, I was given the chance and the opportunity to join and to spend with them together. That's where I know him, when I was very, very poor, even though even now we are all poor in the sight of God. But even according to human being, when someone is somewhere seeking a refuge, he is much more poorer to be regarded. He didn't neglect me at that time.
Let's go back to the visit of His Holiness Pope Shenouda III. I want to ask about the impressions on the Ethiopians.
The Ethiopians' impressions, not only to the family church, the Coptic Orthodox Church, not only to the spiritual father of their tradition. They are very devout Christians. They are people who submitted themselves to the ruling of the Word of God. Since the prophet of God, David, spoke, Ethiopia stretched forth her hands unto God. That speaks about the people. The people are devout, always submit themselves and ask for whatever they wish from God by stretching their hands and looking upwards into heaven. So when they have these spiritual fathers, they are very highly respectful. When Pope Shenouda came, he has been coming long time ago, but in our time, now, recently, the people have revived their historical memories and they have refreshed their interest, always speak about the Holy Father, Pope Shenouda, to be around now and then. Well, devout Christians like to see their spiritual fathers to be around together and pay a visit. And so the faithfuls could gain and get blessings from there. So they have highly appreciated, it's not by word, they have expressed it in deeds. I think as a journalist, you should examine the documents that shows about his visit, because it is very difficult for me to express the actual feeling, except to say it was a great feeling and interesting of the people.
The Egyptian ambassador, please. Excuse me. His Excellency, the Egyptian ambassador. Your Holiness, His Excellency, the Egyptian ambassador. Thank you. Please, please. شنطة فين؟ طب ليز ديس
Who represents the Ethiopian church in Egypt?
In Egypt,
Yes.
even though we are at home, we have our children now coming here by different circumstances. First of all, they feel at home. Secondly, they seek education. Thirdly, they seek other interests or health-wise. This way or the other, there are quite a few of Ethiopians now throughout the world. And the same thing here in Egypt. And Egypt being neighbor and the people being feeling with same feeling of belonging because of their faith here. There are quite a few of students, of young people, or some combinations from the community. Now, no one has been giving them a special attention in order to follow those who don't know Arabic, who don't know Coptic, and who wants to remember to follow up their traditional life of Ethiopia. So they have been this way or the other without being given a special attention to them. Now I appointed Abu Nahayat to be their coordinator and help them and bring them with one of my bishops of the Coptic Orthodox Church, whom he ever is willing and ready to help them. Now, we don't want to have a new church here, because it's our church, the whole church. St. Mark Cathedral is my cathedral. So is the right of the young people. But we have to give in our democratic nations a distinct attention to each and every one of the people according to their feelings. So now what we want, what is the natural teaching of the Christian church is peace, cooperation, loving each other, care, peaceful coexistence. We don't want to mix politics and hatreds among the Christian teachings. And so we are asking Father Hayat to simply coordinate this so that to make them able to get the necessary spiritual food from here. If it is necessary, some people will come also from Ethiopia, simply to express here or there the same family, and here and there the people to contribute peaceful coexistence, not ethnical, tribal, political, or hatred or discrimination. So Father Hayat is the soul which I have written, because I have been coming again and again. I have examined the situation. I have found out to be the man in the middle who will provide the necessary help and assistance.
This leads me to another question. How about the mutual services between the two sister churches?
The mutual services go in their own way all the time. You know, we are on the same tradition. We are the children of the same fathers, but we live geographically apart. And every nation that lives apart has its own way of line of communication. The traditional system maintains in each respective country, but their meaning is the same. Wherever they are, in whatever language they follow, in whatever kind of chanting they follow, it is the same. So it doesn't disturb of anything. When we assigned someone coordinator for the community, we are not separating a new church. It is the same church.
Just a routine question. What's the reason for your Holiness visit to Egypt?
Again and again the same question and the same answer. I am at home. I am not a stranger. I am not visiting new people. I am visiting my family. I can come again and again. Well, it's your job as a journalist to ask me, why are you here? But I will tell you, I was away and I was in the other house of my own family, and I'm here. And the main purpose in this short visit is to see my brother. He has been abroad again and again for physical treatment and examinations, and I wanted to see him how well he is. That's my obligation, my brotherly and spiritually obligation, to pay a visit to each other, to be sympathetic, to feel good of each other, to pray for each other. It is my spiritual obligation. So I am for that purpose, to pay a visit for the father who has been away on a medical treatment, and when he came back, I have to see him. Even though Lent is started, but to do good things are the deeds of Lent. And so to see the brother is not lesser important than to do the Lenten obligations. Lenten obligations are to lead us to do the good things. I believe me and my fathers, the bishops who came with me, and the Holy Synod who have sent us, have done the right way, and I am here from one prayer house into the other.
Well, let me ask Your Holiness, how do Your Holiness see the relation between the two churches?
Like I said again and again, we are of the same family, but we do live, we do guide, and we do administer respectively in our own countries. Even though the way we handle, the way we teach, the way we follow the traditions are still the same. So here is the Orthodox Church of its own, running its obligations. The business of the church everywhere is the same, because it is to teach Jesus Christ, to teach the gospel of Jesus Christ, and at the same time to prepare people for this calling. And so we do all the Christian obligations in our respective countries, and we still remain the same.
Can Your Holiness remember something from the memories of Your Holiness with Pope Kyrillos the Sixth and Pope Shenouda the Third?
Pope Kyrillos, I know of him. I don't know him personally, because I was not in a position to be near him. From the information that I know of him, he was a Holy Father like all the Holy Fathers of the Church. From the beginning of the time here, the history, like the old father, the famous father, Kyrillos I, Athanasius, and other great fathers ever since. So this man in our time also was a Holy Father. And Pope Shenouda, I know him closely, so I could speak more than Pope Kyrillos. Pope Kyrillos, I only know of him.
What are Your Holiness' wishes for the future of the relations between the two churches?
This is a question that we all have to pay attention. My hope, my wish, my prayer is to fulfill the commandment of God. Christians are brothers, are families. They are to think of each other. They are to help of each other. They are to be patient of each other. They are to be supportive of each other. They are to discuss and to make clear things before they even give their service to the people of God, the community that follows them. So to live in a very peaceful and harmonic and cooperative and sympathetic and caring and loving of the families together. Even though we live in our own respective countries, that factor does not hinder us to do all what I have said. We can live in our own respective countries, we can speak and follow our own way of expressions, our language, and yet we speak the same. We live together. That's what I wish.
Let me move on to another important point. Your Holiness is well known to all the Copts, as Your Holiness' name is mentioned in the liturgy of the Nativity, the Epiphany, and the Resurrection. How about Pope Shenouda?
Pope Shenouda is more known everywhere, not only in his own church in Ethiopia, but everywhere. Because he is a great man, he is doing whatever he does to follow the trend and the footsteps of the great Holy Fathers in the past. And so everybody knows Pope Shenouda. We do remember and give opportunities in the mind of the people, but by himself he is very well, he is shadowing everyone.
Is there any kind of scientific and cultural exchange between the two countries?
I am not a politician. I don't exactly know how much, but I do know there is a positive life and discussions, exchanges going on among the politicians. It will be unfair for me to guess, to imagine, and to say they do this, they do that, without knowing exactly. After all, you have asked me, is there any scientific exchange? In a scientific report, 2 and 2 is 4, nothing else. One has to know what are the other factors in order to say the additional number.
I just want to be more accurate. I mean the two churches, the Ethiopian church and the Coptic church.
Well, the Ethiopian and the Coptic church, earlier, they have been together, and they have even, some young people came here and received their educations. Some professors, they went from here and also gave educations and taught there. That's what I mentioned, one of my professors. And now it has been stopped for a moment. Now this is to be revived again. The Holy Father have given the opportunity to continue to give a scholarship for the young people to come here, even to send some scholars to teach in our seminaries, in our colleges, and so to revive the original life that was there in the past.
I wonder if Your Holiness could tell us something about the role played by the two sister churches in developing the relations between both countries.
Well, the relationship of the two churches has been done long time ago, as I mentioned, in the 4th century, and they have been together. And after some time, the relationship went further, and they were exchanging students. Students were coming from the other side. Teachers were going from here into the other part, into Ethiopia. So students was being taught by Egyptian teachers there. Ethiopian students were offered scholarships, and they came and attended the schools here. They received their educations. And so the relationship, what more else of mutual understanding and relationship could we think? This has been going on. Now, this has been interrupted for a certain period of time. And now, the Holy Father, yesterday when I came, today, when I came and we paid a visit, one of the things he has decided was he would offer scholarship to many young people, and other scholars would go and help and teach in the seminary. So from this, everything is open.
Concerning the meetings between the two synods, the Ethiopian Synod and the Coptic Synod, are there any meetings?
So far, except for my last visit, we have had a joint meeting here at the Patriarchate place. In the future, there is a plan that once in a while, the two holy synods could hold meetings in either places. But this has to be rearranged. And so far we have not yet started, but hopefully we will start very soon.
From a spiritual point of view, as Your Holiness see that Egypt and Ethiopia are two African countries, how do Your Holiness see the future? As Your Holiness know, we share many things like the River Nile.
Not only Egypt and Ethiopia, who are so naturally neighborly, who are following and sharing the natural gifts of God, but people all over the world, they should first and foremost recognize they are in the world of God. They also should remember they are the creation of God. God has created them. One God created the world, one God created, the same God created humanity and all natures. So God is on his nature, peace and harmony. All his creatures should live in peace and harmony. And they are given some gifts to understand what God needs from them. For instance, human being is a rational being. A rational being means a man who knows, who understands, who can make others understand, and who chooses what is right, what is wrong, and he has the freedom to choose what is right for him, what is right. He has the knowledge to know which one is correct, and he has the freedom to choose the correct one. So why do people choose something else? Why can't they use the gift of God so that they could live in peace and harmony? The earth is big enough to accommodate everyone. The gifts of nature is plenty to provide to everyone. Why do people live in a wide world, in a full of abundance, as if there is nothing, as if there is a scarcity, and they choose to live in a misunderstanding. So it's not only, this question is not only to be posed for the neighborly countries. They are linked by the river Nile. They are neighbors. Their historical records is exchangeable from the very beginning in the past. Why do people have to try to feel, to think differently? Why can't they examine the root of civilizations and the process of their history? So I believe they have to be the most cooperative nations. One is not above the other. They have to understand each other. They have to cooperate and make understand of each other. The best way is that, to use the gift of God in a peaceful manner, to live in a peaceful manner as a whole, and to serve the people of God. So I think Egypt and Ethiopia, both of them being the great-great-grandchildren of history in the world, they should think wisely. They should be willing to cooperate and to do the best thing for their people on either side.
In the end, just a few words to Pope Shenouda and the Coptic Holy Synod and the Egyptians. What Your Majesty want to say?
May God give a full health and long years to live for the Holy Father. May the understanding of the Holy Synods on both sides has to be widened, and so that we could provide a full service to all the communities here and there and throughout the world, because both societies live throughout the world now, not as the refugees, but also with different capacities of understandings or choices, educationally or job seeking, economically, health-wise, or as refugees, some of them may be. But more or less today, a refugee or a Persian is not the main reason for people to be everywhere in the world. It is their own free choice in order to move. It's not the richness or the poverty. There are rich people who leave their countries and live in another one. There are also educated people, after earning their educations, instead of working in their own countries, they live in another one. So the choice is rather democratic, is left to the people. So when we ask a long life and good health for the Holy Fathers, is simply to give service to the people who are not only here in Egypt, but throughout the world. Why? Because he has proven to be a great father. And so the people always need to have someone who pays attention to them, not someone who gets proud of against them or who rules them, but who shepherds them. So what I wish is, let the Holy Father live longer, so that others, those who learn, could learn more others, those who enjoy the service of His Holiness, could enjoy more. Otherwise, let the world live in a peaceful coexistence. There is enough for everything, for everyone. There is knowledge everywhere. Our knowledge should not be misused for any other different directives against the will of God. God is a peaceful God. God is justice. God is merciful. So people have to live according to their nature. It could even be the same, heaven and earth.
This